thank you all for your time. Welcome to this year's Delta Sigma Theta Peninsula Foundation's Financial Fortitude Workshop. And this year, the theme is Recalibrating in the Time of COVID. We've had many ups and downs through COVID. I wish I could be here and say that it's all over. It is not, but I think we're all learning to adjust and figure out what life is like with COVID. And part of that, taking the health aspects aside, are really our finances. So again, it's critical that we continue to think about how we build wealth, how we build a legacy, despite what we're going through in life. And this is what this event is all about. Again, the key here is let's take some actions. Some of you have seen these quotes before. Before I hand over to our foundation's chairperson, I wanted to share a couple of quick quotes. This is something that she found for us. But legacy is not what I did for myself. It's what I'm doing for the next generation. Again, legacy is not what I did for myself. It's what I'm doing for the next generation. Again, we're all here to build a legacy, right? It's not just about us, it's about others. So take that to heart. Remember that, use that to drive you. Another great quote, this is all about taking action, right? Take ownership of your financial education so that you can change not only your life, but your family's life for the better. Again, take ownership of your financial education so that you can change not only your life, but your family's lives for the better. This is huge. This is why we're here. This is why you're here. You're taking ownership of your financial education. If you're seeing things you like, you heard something, you got a nugget, share. Let's make sure we're sharing and we're enjoying, we're growing wealth, we're spreading the news, we're building each other up. So without further ado, I'm going to hand over to Farralon Udom, the chairperson of the Delta San Francisco Peninsula Foundation, to say a couple words.
Welcome, everyone. I am thrilled and excited for this year's Financial Fortitude Workshop. There has been so much hard work and planning and engagement that's gone into this. So it's wonderful to be here today with each of you. Our theme is recalibrating in the time of COVID. And for those of you who were here last year, our theme was prosperity in a pandemic. We're still keeping the thread of the pandemic because we're still here. We're still living through it. We're still reading news about how the economy is impacted or not by the pandemic, how everyday people are working or not thanks to the pandemic. And so it goes without saying that your finances and your financial health right now have been impacted by the pandemic. Some of that impact could be extremely positive. Some of that could also be negative. But as we think about how are we going to take our personal finances forward, having a plan that accounts for the environment that we're in now, for the reality that each of us is living in now, is absolutely critical. So what we've done is we've lined up a series of speakers. You'll get to meet all of us very shortly in the panel discussion. I really do want to thank everyone who has worked so hard to bring this day to fruition. We have a very hardworking board, all volunteer, who give both significantly of their time and their finances to make events like this happen. I am also incredibly grateful to our corporate sponsors, and this year's platinum sponsor is Wells Fargo. Wells Fargo isn't able to present to us today like they are usually able to in non-COVID times, but nonetheless, they have ensured that they've given us what they could to ensure that we're able to, through this event, incite sound personal finances throughout our community. The Delta San Francisco-Peninsula Foundation was founded in 1999. So we actually have more than a 10-year legacy, and every year this event gets better and better. Over 200 of you have registered for today's sessions, and we are excited for everything that we can bring to you to help you change not only your lives, not only your children's lives, but potentially the lives of so many other people that you come in contact with. Welcome, welcome, welcome. Thank you, thank you, thank you. And with this, I'm going to turn it back to our chair, my husband, Imo Udom, who is going to lead our panel discussion. Thank you.
Oftentimes, we tend to do introductions for panelists. I'm not going to do that this time around. I would like the panelists, as we enter the workshop, to introduce themselves, but I will just call them out very quickly so people know who they are, and bear with me as I pin them to the main screen. So one of our panelists today, you've already heard from. Her name is Farralon Udom. Farralon is a senior financial associate at RBC Wealth Management. We have another distinguished Jasper Smith, who's joining us again. Please, Jasper, wave and say hi. He's a certified CRC financial planner and author. Jasper is awesome. His session is going to be disrupting generational poverty. Coming in again for year 4 or 5 is Nneka Jenkins. She's amazing. She's going to talk about real estate, investing, and home buying. My intros are really quick. Speakers, when I ask you to do your own intros, please do a better job than I did and hype up your sessions. We have William Huston joining us from Bay Street Capital, who will be talking about women and investing. We have Mr. Billy Manning from Morgan Stanley, who's covering the fundamentals of investing. And we have Verleana Green, who has her own law firm, and she'll be focusing on estate planning. Awesome. So very quickly here, let me go through this and see if I can pin people very quickly. So give me a moment here. Awesome. All right. So let's go through and do some very quick intros. I think that's the easiest way to get things started in panel format. And actually, well, I'm going to go in reverse order this time. Verleana, can you please come off mute and introduce yourself?
Good morning, everyone, and thank you, Mr. Udom, for inviting me, and Farralon for inviting me back. This is my second year as a panelist at the Delta Foundation Financial Fortitude event, and I'm really excited to be here today. My name again is Verleana Green-Telusca, and where I'm from Oakland, California. I am a Bay Area girl, born, raised, never left. I went to UC Berkeley, where I received my undergraduate degree, University of San Francisco School of Law, where I received my JD. And also I went back to school a couple of years later as a practicing attorney, received my master's of law in taxation, and also received a certificate in estate planning, and also became a certified mediator. Yes, go Bears. I've been practicing now for 14 years, and my specialty is estate planning, probate, trust administration, trust litigation, and I also do some contract review and negotiation. Background, before starting my practice, I worked at several different institutions, including Charles Schwab, where I did broker-dealer agreements. I worked for Robert Half International, where I reviewed and also submitted bids in terms of our permanent placement employment contracts. And I also worked for a major law firm based in San Francisco, Orrick, Harrington, and Sutcliffe, in the area of securities litigation. So I have a breadth of knowledge in terms of business and also finances, and I'm excited to be here today. I am a mother of 2 now. So I have a 4-year-old, and I also have a 11-month-old. She'll be 1 November 22nd. And of course, I am married to Libner Telusca. We are excited to just be planning something for our future, for our legacy, for our children. And we don't just talk about it, we are about it. So I am really excited, and I'll share more with you guys about what that means. My passion is estate planning. So while I love to do probate because we make more money as attorneys doing probates when people don't plan, and we make a lot more money when people fight as families. We make a lot more money.
Tell
But
'em.
but my passion really is estate planning. I love working with families to make sure that they are setting a legacy for the ones that they really care about. I love working with people who I actually know, and I see when a legacy is passed on from one generation to the next. I've seen families who created trusts and they've created businesses from the legacy that their parents left them, and they've created um, uh, different nonprofits. They've also made sure that the next generation is educated through educational trust. So it's really exciting to see how it works. Being in business for 14 years, where I can see when someone was alive and when they were planning, and now we see it in place, and we see the next generation benefiting. So that is what I love doing, what I'm excited about, and what I'm going to talk about with you guys today.
Thank you so much, Verleana. That was awesome. And thanks for the warm introduction there. I think next up, let's have Nneka Jenkins. Nneka, what are you talking about?
Now,
Hit
why
us.
would you have me follow her? I need to meet you. I like you. That was amazing. Well, I'll do my best to follow that amazing intro. My name is Nneka Jenkins. I run, my husband and I run our own company, Onyx Wealth Realty. We're part of a brokerage called The Real Experts here in the Bay Area. As far as my background goes, I am somewhat new to real estate in that I've really only been full-time for just over 3 years. I worked in tech, in medical devices prior to this, and I honestly had no idea that I was ever going to get into real estate. I kind of fell into it, and it was pretty much an accident. So in the past 6 years, I've either been pregnant, nursing, or recovering. We have a 20-year-old, my stepchild, but I consider my 20-year-old and my almost 17-year-old my children. Been in their lives a very long time. And then together with my husband, biologically, we have a 6-year-old, a 4-year-old, a 1-year-old, and I'm pregnant. So we've been building that wealth and struggling with, being new parents and all that good stuff. And thank you. Thank you so much. So I definitely, I feel like I'm here because I've done everything perfect, and I'm here to tell you what to do. And that's absolutely not the truth. I am so passionate about sharing with you guys all of the mistakes that we've made. Not here today necessarily, but one of my goals in life is to show people just how much we have messed up and how we've recovered, because I truly feel like that's been a huge blessing. Obviously in the midst, it's stressful, right? But when you take those lemons and make lemonade and understand that everything is a lesson learned, I've quickly realized that through my short real estate career, every single time something has gone wrong in a transaction, in our own transactions, our own personal properties or investment properties, it's always been a stepping stone or a precursor to information I needed for someone else or for myself every single time. So with that said, now my husband and I run a team. We have about 7 agents that are on our team. We have admin staff of about 5 people, a couple brand management people as well. And my goal with all of that is to just continue to be able to give 5-star service to as many families as possible. So in the, I've been a realtor for almost 6 years, but in the 3.5 years that I've been full-time, we've sold over 500 million in business. And this year we have sold 153 million. So far, that's 137 families served. I normally don't focus on how much money, millions that we've sold in real estate, but the biggest thing for me is just how many families we've been able to touch, whether they're buyers or sellers. And it's interesting because most of the times I meet with sellers, I'm actually convincing them to hold on to their property or showing them a different way. It's not a short-term thing for me. I get a lot of referral-based business because I am honest with people, because I treat them as if it was me talking to my best friend. So today I'm excited to talk with you guys about all the mistakes that I've made, all the mistakes I've seen other people make, because I think that is part of my superpower as well. I pay attention to those around me and the mistakes that they're making and learn from them. You don't only learn from the people that are doing it right, you actually learn a lot more from the people that are doing it wrong. I saw a quote that said, I've learned many things from the convicts, friends that are convicts, and the ones that have PhDs like Verleana and doing all of this stuff. You've got to get the knowledge wherever you can. And my favorite quote that I run my team by is, to whom much is given, much is expected. There's a lot of versions of that, but it derived from the Bible, obviously. And it's important to me that all of us here, everything we take, we pass it along, we share it. Too much in our culture, especially, we are trying to perpetuate this idea that everything is perfect. I am a big proponent of showing everyone nothing is perfect. This house I'm in, Farralon knows firsthand how hard it was to get here. And I felt like for the last few years of just being a top realtor in the area, that I was perpetuating this idea of helping people get amazing homes. And, I was stuck in something that I wasn't proud of. So it's all been a journey, and I've learned through it. And nothing I've done has been perfect, but it's also that I can share my knowledge with you. So I'm going to stop taking up the floor. I'm excited to speak with, or to hear from and speak to all of you. I'm so excited that you get to listen to the recordings later. But thank you, Farralon and Imo, for even allowing me to be on this again. They have been such amazing people in my life, even personally, and helped me grow and create what is now Onyx Wealth kind of tribe, Onyx Wealth webinars that Farralon helped basically bring to life. And I'm just so grateful to have them in my sphere. So learn from them, stay in their sphere, and thank you so much for your time.
Thank you so much, Nneka. Really appreciate that. Next up is Billy Manning.
Well, I'm the rookie, so I have not been here before. I have been listening to these stories, so I'm sorry I have to follow both of y'all. I'm a transplant, so I was from the East Coast, so I don't have that going for me. Went to school back east, but I came out here in the late 90s. So I started with Morgan Stanley when I landed in San Francisco in 99, very end of 98. So just before the tech little situation that we had there. So I've seen a lot in the markets. I've got a lot of training. I'm a CFP, et cetera, et cetera. But the thing that I'm going to follow on what was just said was I got in it to help people. That's what I started doing. I used to manage bands. I've done some other things in my life. And I got in this to be the conduit for the information. And so now, basically what I try to do is I just try to take the intellectual capital of Morgan Stanley. We call it 1585. That's where our headquarters is, 1585 Broadway in New York. But I take that intellectual capital and I want to give it to my people. That's basically what it is. So that's what I'm here to do. I'm excited that I got invited. I'm talking about more the fundamentals of investing. So it seems like we have a lot of specialists on the panel, which I think is fantastic. I work with a lot of specialists. I focus on helping the families plan, having some kind of plan. You'll hear that word over and over, both from me and it sounds like from some of the other panelists. So I'm just excited to be here and share.
Thank you, Billy. Really appreciate that. Let's go over to William Huston.
Hey everyone, already inspired, super excited to be a part of this. Again, I'm William Huston. I grew up in Alabama, Huntsville, Alabama. I come from 4 generations of educators. So my great-grandmother was taught at Tuskegee. My grandfather did his PhD in Michigan. My parents met at Ohio State. And when I went to school, the idea was that I would do engineering. I was at Georgia Tech. And at the time, Facebook had just come out, eBay had just come out. And I caught this bug that I could start a business. During the time of catching that bug, my father became disabled. And so I bought a couple of books on insurance and started reading how to get his disability approved. And when I did that, I ended up reading another book called The 4-Hour Work Week because I was a college student. and I couldn't work, while I was also in school full time. In that book, it recommended hiring a virtual assistant. So I ended up hiring some team members in the Philippines, and that spun into me running call centers in the Philippines for 13 years. We made phone calls for New York Life, MetLife, MassMutual, Foresters, and that landed us a lot of startups in the Bay Area that were working with these larger insurance companies. One of those startups, we made phone calls in 2017. They went from 0 to 500 million in assets with 8 of our telemarketers. And when that happened, I decided to start Bay Street because there were no Black institutional investors in the space. All of my work has been with the institution. So as Billy said, he works with families. A lot of my work is actually designing the plan that the institution provides to an employee. And in that space, 98.6% of all assets are managed by white males. That might sound crazy because there's $69 trillion in the US. Because of that, and what perpetuates that is that the firms that make the recommendations to the institutions, there is no representation from a diversity standpoint. So Bay Street is in place to advocate for diverse and emerging managers. We do that, one, by example, the fund that we run and manage, it's Clean Energy and Technology Fund, and two, by advocating for new fund managers that are outperforming, that are top quartile, that are being persistently under allocated to. So a lot of times what happens, even if you have a Black manager that's performing well, they're often not given the same amount of resources because they don't have an institutional investment advisor that's advocating for them to be allocated appropriately. So anyone on the call who has a 401k, you actually already know this, because if you were to log into your 401k, you won't see any woman-owned fund managers. You won't see any Black-owned fund managers. What you'll have is a list of majority-owned funds. The whole 401k will be owned by white managers. We look to speak with organizations that are looking to be mission aligned when they put these yard signs out that say that they want to be more diverse in their representation. They want to do more as it pertains to being impact and socially conscious. And we show them how to do that by digging into our database, doing our due diligence to make sure that when they allocate to these fund managers, that they're in a good position. So super excited. Thank you all for having me. You'll hear my son in the background. You see the balloon. It's because earlier he knocked the painting down that was behind me. So he's replaced it with the balloon. We're in the middle of moving. There's boxes everywhere. So sorry for the noise, but super excited to be here.
Great, William. And what's your talk again about?
I'm doing Women in Investing, inspired by my mom. She was vice president of an HBCU. She retired from there and started her business when I was a sophomore in high school. And I ran her QuickBooks out of her garage. She ended up running a very successful contracting business. So this is a tribute to her.
That sounds wonderful. Thank you, William. All right, Mr. Build Wealth, Jasper Smith, let's do it.
Hey, everybody. And first off, I'm excited to get the invite again this year. I'm always keeping my fingers crossed that I'll be back again, because I just want to warn you, you better get your popcorn ready if you come to my session, because we're going to talk about disrupting generational poverty. And it's not about one specific product or strategy, but Billy mentioned it earlier too. Just tell me your plan. Like we don't understand the language of money, and therefore you continue to see the wealth gap continue to widen. And there's only a few things that we really need to do, but for some reason we keep fighting it. And so my session is going to be geared towards giving you the cheat codes, because my vision is to disrupt generational poverty for everyone, so their kids can live a life of privilege. And I want you to think about that for a second, because what you're doing today is setting the tone for your family, your community. And if we just did a few things, just a few, Nneka's building this army, has a wonderful family. And I'm sure they think about, what happens, like how will their kids grow up? What will they have access to? Verleana as well, having her second child. I just got married in the last year, so I'm a newly minted husband, and I'm also expecting. And so, like, the way my brain thinks now is it's not about me. And a lot of us don't think about how selfish we've been and aren't willing to be a little bit vulnerable and just ask for help. And so part of my session is you got to get out your own way. And I really love like this group of panelists. And I always, I'm excited when I'm around these type of environments, because I actually want to be in the other sessions. Like my session is going to be great. Like I just want to sit and listen to these other awesome people who I've gotten the pleasure to know over the years. And it's like, man, what gems are they going to throw out this morning that I can actually apply? To Billy's point, like I've been in financial services for 13 years, and it was about the money for me. I'm not even gonna lie to you. It was about the money. I'm trying to get this money. I'm trying to get rich. I'm trying to stunt on my friends. I'm trying to do all the things that I see happening in my community. And then at about 5 years into the industry, I realized it ain't about the money. It's not. and as you start meeting people who are wealthy, they move so differently because poor people are flashy, rich people are loud, and wealthy people and wealth is quiet. And so as you go up that ladder, your conversation changes. You know, the way you move in your professional career changes. And so I have personally seen people who have traveled that road. I have, family members who've done that. I've been blessed to have been born into a family who was willing to have the conversation. But most of us are still scared about talking about money. Now, I'll give you an example. If you were to send out a question right now, Imo, and say, how much money do you make? People would start cringing. Oh, I didn't want to know how much money I make because we're still uncomfortable just talking about money.
So true.
So however you're going to build your wealth or create your legacy, it's going to require a team, just so you know. And so I'm going to talk a lot about some of these things in this session. So you won't see me go too far into the rabbit hole on any one specific topic, because I don't care how you make your money, how you build your wealth. Tell me the plan and make it make sense to somebody who understands the language of money. So again, my name is Jasper Smith, also known as Mr. Bill Wealth. I serve as the Director of Disruption of the Bill Wealth Movement. And again, I will, with everything that I do, I will disrupt generational poverty for everyone, because I know that when we do this, your kids will live a life of privilege.
Great, Jasper. Really appreciate that. Love the passion, love the energy. We're going to make that a reality. So last but certainly not least, my wonderful wife, Farralon Udom, take it away.
Well, for each one of you who complained about having the person before you speak, I've had 5, and I'm the 6th. And I think that my session is probably the most fundamental. So before I kind of talk to you and convince you why you want to learn the budget, even though you make, spend, and hopefully save money every day, I'll tell you a little bit about myself. I am from Houston. I grew up in Houston. I moved and went away to school at 14. So I left. I went to boarding school. I went to college also on the East Coast. And I don't know, in college was pretty disillusioned. I thought that I would probably go and do development work in Botswana, quite literally. And somewhere along the way, I realized that my decision point was Botswana or earning enough money to support what I affectionately refer to as, my family of 5. And really what that meant was that I had 2 younger brothers, I had a grandmother, I had other relatives that had really poured into me, sewed into me. By the time I finished college, had received more than $250,000 in scholarships between high school and college, and that's a lot of education. So at the end of the day, I ended up picking the road most traveled for probably the strangest reasons ever. And I got into finance, and money has always been important to me because I think it essentially does 2 things. It provides security and it provides opportunity. There are many, many things that money does not do. And I think it's very important to become crystal clear on what the legitimate purposes of money are. But for many of the worthwhile things that we will experience in our life, there is somehow a dollar cost attached to it. And in all of my profit work and all of my volunteering, one of the things that also struck me was not a lack of volunteers, but always a real hustle to have money and means and support to continue to do the wonderful work that all of these nonprofits actually. So with that, I ended up becoming a junior trader at a hedge fund in Hawaii. It focused on equity markets in Asia. So that's been the majority of my career. And I made a big pivot about 3 years ago to join the sustainable space. So I work for the Sustainable, Responsible, and Impact Investing team at RBC. And our goal is to use capital markets to shape more environmentally sound and socially just outcomes. With that, I'll say that I have walked a lot of paths. So I do know the paths of, institutional investors. I now work mostly with family foundations and high net worth individuals, and my own life intersects a lot of paths. You know, Folks who are, I'm from a legacy of people who have struggled to make it. I'm from people who have done wonderful, great things, and somehow maybe missed the mark in teaching their children how to also emulate those things. So my family's very, very scattered. And certainly something that I've been really interested in probably since I was 16 is how to Jasper's point, disrupt generational poverty. How can you regularly repeat success? How can you build character traits and actions and assets that will ensure that good people with wonderful values who want to see the world look, function, and feel different way that it is now? How can we help those people have the assets to replicate what they want to see in this world? So with that, my session is budgeting, and it is very difficult to become wealthy if you're not able to save and invest. And a budget is very key to that success. So my session, we're going to keep it pretty real. We're going to actually talk tactics, action steps. You will leave my session with an actionable budget. You will leave my session with an understanding of a basic level of security that you'll need for you and your family. And you'll also leave my session with real thoughts and plans on how to hold yourself accountable and stick to the plan that you develop. Thank you, Imo.
Thank you, Farralon. Okay, let's go into some quick questions and answers. So we went a little long with intros, which is okay. I think everyone got a good feel for the speakers and maybe what sessions you want to attend. So I'm going to speed round this, right? I'm going to throw a couple things out there to a handful of speakers. Please keep your answers a little bit on the shorter side of things so we can get through some of these. But let's have some fun as we warm up the crowd. So Farralon, let's actually start with you. And a good question I thought about for you is, where do you think people go wrong when it comes to finances or building wealth? Where do people go wrong?
I think people emphasize the perfect and they don't emphasize progress. And I also took two ways. Yeah, I will always choose progress over perfection. Think perfection is a trap. Our actions are cumulative. So as long as you continue to make progress, that progress builds and it compounds, and you'll be amazed at where you end up. Focus on perfection can often lead you to be stuck and only to take the actions that you think have a 100% chance of success. That is not the fundamentals of investing. The fundamentals of investing is actually accurately pricing risk. So as long as you take a risk and you believe the reward for that risk will outweigh the risk you're taking, you take enough of those risks, you will end up successful. You learn from those risks, you will end up successful. And the second way I think that we mess up when we think about finances and building wealth is we tend to think that the game is all about information. Oh, if I know more, I will be more successful. Lies. Because I can ask every last one of you to list everything that you think you know about money, you can write for actually probably quite a long time. And then if I were to say, now take that same list and put a check next to everything you do, there is going to be a disparity. And for most of us, a very large one. So the game is not what you know, the game is what you do. And I don't need you to do it perfectly. I need you to do it. One step, two steps, three steps, take a step backwards. That's okay. Hop forward. I think that's what's important.
Love that. Love that advice, Farralon. Really appreciate it. Jasper, I'm going to throw that same question to you. What is a mistake that oftentimes people make when it comes to finances or building wealth?
Before I answer the question, I forgot to share. I'm from Durham, North Carolina. I attended North Carolina A&T. I'm all Black all the way through. Just want to throw that out there for anybody. Maybe that encourages you to come to my session. Biggest mistake, listen to your financial planner. Next question, Imo. Go ahead. Listen to your team. Listen to your money team. The people who are experts, please listen to them. That's all I'm gonna say.
Great, love it. You kept it short, kept it sweet.
I'm gonna jump in.
Do it, Billy.
Mistake that I think everybody makes is waiting until ... Just start. You gotta start.
Awesome, Billy. Thanks for adding that there. Since you jumped in, Billy, I'm going to throw the next question at you. Tell us a financial or wealth building mistake that you or someone close to you has made. A financial or wealth building mistake that you or someone close to you has made.
Oh, I mean, I just said it. I waited too long. Somebody, I don't have all the names right now, but somebody talked about getting into it right when the tech boom started. So I had a person help me with my money back in the mid 90s. And I made a very good decision. I think I put some money in an IRA. It was 2000 at that time. But my money in my IRA sat in a money market for that part of the tech boom. And the person at the time told me that this is your retirement money. You want to be totally safe with it, which, you know, I know different now. My life would be very different right now had I met somebody like me back then and talked to him. So yeah.
Appreciate the candid response, Billy. Appreciate the candid response there. Nneka, do you have something to share on that one point?
Yes, I do on both. I will be short.
Yep, go ahead.
For the biggest mistake, it kind of goes along with what Jasper said, but I'm going to take it a little further. The biggest mistake I think people make is comparing themselves to others and listening to their friends. I think Jasper spoke about this last year or something too. You know, find a professional that actually knows what they're doing. Stop listening to your friends. I don't care if you think they have it all figured out or if they don't have it figured out. Stop listening to your friends and comparing yourselves to what you think they have, because they're probably not telling you the whole picture, and maybe it's none of your business. So that's the biggest mistake I think people make. The question you just asked, I think can you repeat the question? I know my answer, but can you repeat the question just so I frame it right? The last one.
Not a problem. Tell us a financial or wealth building mistake that you or someone close to you has made.
I'm going to just talk about me. Acting in desperation. I think while it's afforded me a lot of lessons learned in the past, let's say 5-6 years of investing in our own real estate and then making those into true investments and then truly investing into investment properties outside of California, acting in desperation in ways that relates to lending. And this is my relationship with Farralon is only going to grow with just her knowledge of that world, because even though I'm a real estate agent, I am quickly realizing that in the last 2 years of COVID, so much has changed about lending and they're not telling you about it. They're too busy. They have too much business. They're spoiled. And I mean the lenders, the underwriters, the corporate, and they're not sharing any of the info, and they have so much discretion in the matter that while we think I'm totally taking what Farralon said to me yesterday, the rules are black and white, but the amount of discretion they have is massive. Therefore, if you are not prepared, you will become victim to what they tell you need to do, should do. Nope, can't buy right now, wait, do this, do that, and waste a lot of money. I literally, in the past year, know for a fact now after the fact that in one investment particular, we wasted tens of thousands of dollars going a certain route with a certain lending structure that we shouldn't have done. You know, we can't go back, it doesn't matter. But my point is that when you act in desperation because you're not prepared, because someone tells you to get a pre-approval and you say, no, I'll get it when I find the house. And then you act in desperation right then because you find the home and you're emotional, you make mistakes. So that's my answer.
Thank you for that, Nneka. Verleana, what has COVID taught you or reinforced for you when it comes to finances or building wealth? What has COVID taught you or reinforced for you when it comes to finance or building wealth?
Well, I will say that during COVID, it has been some of the best times for my business. And I think what it is reinforced is that people really wait until the last minute to start planning. And I think that we have to understand that when we wait until the last minute, and like the speaker said before, and we're acting out of desperation, then we tend to make mistakes. So we have to understand that when we wait, that it costs us more money than when we're planning ahead. So planning ahead is one thing that COVID has reinforced, that you have to think 2 steps ahead, to have some sort of backup plan, to have some contingencies to say, what if this happens, and if this happens, and if this happens. And I think my husband and I were really good at that. Especially we were able to pivot during times of COVID. And actually both of our businesses, and my husband, he's in the pharmaceutical space, and he fared much better than in actual pre-COVID times. And I actually fared much better before COVID, because we had plans in place so that we were able to pivot. And keep in mind, during COVID, I was pregnant. So I got pregnant in the end of March of 2020 and had my child November. So in the midst of all this, I am pregnant, I am working, and business, it slowed down for a couple of months, but then it just took off because I was able to put some things in place before COVID. And I had marketing structures and I had word of mouth already in place. And so we had tons of essential workers who came to me and said, you know what, I need an estate plan. I need one now. So always having and doing the things that we know to do consistently, as Farralon said earlier, so that when it does happen, and we do have a situation where COVID, and we know people are scared and people really are searching and scrounging for estate plans, we're able to act and we're able to provide that service. So always be ready so you don't have to get ready.
Love that. Be ready so you don't have to get ready. William Huston, what has COVID taught you or reinforced for you when it comes to finances or building wealth?
Thanks. I think what it's reinforced is making sure that you stick to your rules. That's what it's enforced for me. So as I mentioned, the portfolio that we manage is in-house, so we don't outsource to like mutual funds or ETFs. And a lot of times when we're speaking with folks, we share like tips, but to actually stick to those recommendations is a completely different thing. So for example, some of the things we say is hope is not an investment strategy, right? So when COVID was happening, a lot of people in March, when the market came down, they were either selling things or buying things, just lack of patience, not sticking to their long-term plan. And for a lot of things that were overvalued, I see, although people know what behaviors they should take, they end up making decisions that are not in their best interest. And a lot of it is because of that line of reasoning. They're hoping for something to happen. And I think to avoid putting yourself in a position where you're hoping, it's never be married to a decision that you make. It's easy to reduce a decision or increase a decision, by 1 over n. So I can get rid of half of a decision I made. I can reduce by 1/5. I don't have to be 100% in or 100% out. And I see that a lot with individuals that are managing their own portfolios. It's, oh, I wish I would have bought this. And so since I didn't, now I do nothing, or I bought this and it didn't work out, so now I sell the whole thing. And that is not, in my opinion, the best direction to go. Another thing I always tell people is everyone is a genius in a bull market. So a lot of folks will reach out and say, hey, I was managing my money and last year I made 80%, but the market was up. If you bought any technology stock last year, of course, especially if you put 100% of your money, which is a horrible decision, in a couple of stocks, and you made 80%, well, that's not surprising if you bought Hertz when it was 80 cents and in bankruptcy and now it's $3, right? Like that's not investing, it's gambling, And as someone said earlier, investing is relative, it's not absolute. So to compare your portfolio to your neighbors or your friend's Robinhood account is not a healthy way to invest. It's absolute. So if you invest some money today and you have more money when you finish, that's a successful investment. So that's what's being reinforced for me. And thanks for the question.
Thank you. These are great. Unfortunately, we're kind of coming up on time here, so we'll do a very last speed round, and then we'll take a break before going into our first session. So again, speed round, everybody here. The question is, what is one piece of advice you'd like to share with the crowd today? Even if you've already said this advice, repeat it again. Repeat, repeat, repeat. So the question is, what is one piece of advice you'd like to share with the crowd today? Farralon Udom, let's go.
Don't be perfect. Make progress.
Awesome. All right, Jasper Smith, hit us.
Work hard until expensive becomes cheap.
Work hard until expensive becomes cheap. Nice. Nneka Jenkins.
I would say do it anyway. We all have excuses, many, many excuses. Do it anyway. Make the mistake, share the information, share the experience, and get it done.
Do it anyway, like that. William Huston.
I would just say share information. I think a lot of times when someone figures out something that's working, you have this tendency to internalize it. And something that's really been helpful for us is we actually meet with 10 other Black-owned investment firms on a regular basis. And that's been really encouraging for me to be able to say, hey, this is what we're really good at doing. What's working for y'all, you see? And so I'll say, as you're here, if you have friends and family, don't take what we're doing and keep it insular. Make sure that you're sharing it with the folks that you hear. And so that all of us, there's enough out here for everyone. It's not a situation where, if you get some information, you need to keep it to yourself.
Awesome.
Seek the advice of experts early and often. Make sure that you have someone who knows what they're talking about, who has a track record of success in finances, and also make sure you have a team of experts. It's not just one person. You need a lawyer, you need a CPA, you need a financial advisor, you need a tax preparer. You need all of those things on your financial team.
Seek advice, get a team. All right, last but certainly not least, Billy Manning.
Same thing. Have a plan, and part of your plan has to be the plan to change, because your goals are different than they were 5 years ago. They're going to be different in 5 years. But like Jasper says about the multi-generational wealth, have your North Star. So whatever your plan is, it can adjust, but have a plan.
Thank you. Have a plan.